All right, so we are going to talk a little bit more about writing today because we are going to be, that's great, Jody. I'm glad you can hear me now. Hopefully it resolved all of the issues and glitches. So we are going to be talking about writing today because we are going to be revising your informative essays. Okay, so I need everybody to follow along on the screen. There is going to be a good amount of me talking at the beginning of class today, but not the end. However, this information is really important. So while giving feedback on your essays, one of the main things that I noticed was that your thesis statement was either not contained in one sentence, meaning that maybe some of you had parts of your thesis in 2 or 3 different sentences, or your thesis statement did not use parallel structure. For some of you, this term of parallel structure might be brand new. So if you don't know what it is, that's okay. We're going to go over it together today. I do recommend that you guys take a few notes while we're talking about this information today. In my second period class, someone was able to start notes in the Teams meeting that everybody could see. So if you know how to do that, that would be super helpful for your classmates. If you don't know how to do that, you can take notes on a piece of notebook paper, or you can split your screen and type this information as well. But again, just a few bullet points while we're going over this, I think will help you when you go to revise your essay later on. So again, if you don't know what parallel structure is with your thesis, that's okay. We're going to review that together in just a minute. Another common mistake that I noticed is that a lot of essays still started off with a hook. Remember in 8th grade, when we're trying to get ready for high school, we do not want to use a hook in our writing. The reason we don't want to use a hook or an attention grabber is because this tends to sound cheesy or juvenile, kind of like elementary style writing. Like, have you ever heard of plastic? Or I was walking across the beach and I tripped on some plastic, right? This kind of sounds a little more elementary style than high school. And in 8th grade, we're trying to get you ready for high school level writing. So again, we're trying to avoid hooks, attention grabbers, and instead we're focusing on the information, the facts, the background knowledge in order to set up your thesis. Another thing that I saw was a lot of you were forgetting to include a sentence between your topic sentence and your evidence. So again, your topic sentence for each body paragraph is explicitly introducing the reason for that paragraph, the topic for that paragraph that you are going to focus on. If you just have your topic sentence and then your evidence right after that, and there's nothing in between to kind of connect the two, it can feel disjointed. So it's really important that after your topic sentence where you introduce the topic, you have another sentence or two where you explain a little bit more, not really summarize, but just extend why this is important and set up your evidence. So in that sentence between the topic sentence and the evidence, you should be elaborating on your topic sentence or setting up information that's necessary for the evidence that you will provide. Another really common mistake that I noticed when giving feedback on the essays was that a lot of us forgot to follow the 1-to-2 ratio for evidence and elaboration. Again, this might be new terminology for you, but essentially for every one piece of evidence, you need to have a minimum of 2 sentences of elaboration. This would be a really good note to take. For every 1 sentence of evidence, you need to have a minimum of 2 sentences of elaboration. I saw a lot of papers that were really heavy on evidence and lacking in elaboration. Remember that elaboration is what really makes your essay stand out. The elaboration is in your own words. That is where you are analyzing the evidence. That is where you are proving why this information is important, why people should care. So again, we need to make sure that we are having a minimum of 2 sentences of elaboration for each piece of evidence. And sometimes you might need more than the 2 to really drive home the point. The last mistake that I noticed in a lot of your essays was that we continued to restate the 3 reasons in the conclusion. Remember, if we've already restated our 3 reasons in our thesis statement, and we've already talked about the 3 reasons in detail throughout the paragraphs, then it can feel redundant or unnecessary to, again, restate those 3 reasons in the conclusion, especially if you restate them and that's the only way you end your conclusion, right? So if you're referring to the reasons, that's okay, but your conclusion really needs to serve as more than just summarizing. Your conclusion should instead reflect and kind of propose a call to action for what could happen next, right? So again, if we're talking about this essay that's the impact of plastic, then maybe you briefly review what everything was in your essay that was important. You explain why this issue is so important and the consequences that could happen if people don't make a change, right? Do you guys have any questions about any of the information on this slide before we move on? Because some of it can be new information to us. Again, I'm trying to go through this a little quickly so that you don't have an entire class period of me talking, because that can be pretty boring. But if you have, yeah. Hello? Do you have a question? All right, I can't quite hear you. It just sounds like static noise. So if you have a question, if you could type it in the chat, that would be great. I want to make sure that I can help you guys understand any of this information. That's a great question, Nkosi. So Nkosi's question was, what should we do instead of using a hook? So instead of using a hook, what we are going to do is focus on setting up why this issue is important. So first you'll need to explain what the topic is, and then you'll have to explain why the issue is important and maybe provide a little bit of background information. So I'm going to show you a paper called Essay Structure in a little bit, and that essay structure paper will go over what to do in your introduction paragraph instead of using a hook. So if you'll notice in Schoology, I set up a folder in today's week 8 folder, and it's a green folder titled Writing Resources. In that Writing Resources folder, there are 4 different documents all related to writing, and the one called Essay Structure we're going to review in a little bit together. That paper is going to really guide your writing and your revision and help you understand what to do if we're not supposed to do these things. Okay, but I just wanted to address all of these together because they were really common issues. So I wanted to talk whole group about them because it wasn't just an individualized thing. It was on several papers. And again, this is your first essay that you have written in class this year, so I'm not surprised. Is it okay to use a hook if it's considered advanced? Sophia, that's a great question. What I kind of have said to other classes in the past is that if it helps you to still think of it as a hook, I understand that. If the hook is kind of cheesy and doesn't really make you think, then then I wouldn't use it. But if you're saying if it's really advanced, if it's maybe still a question, but it's not a yes or no question, and it encourages critical thinking, then yes, for sure, you can do that. All right, the next thing that we're going to talk about is parallel structure, and that's the last slide that I'm going to go over with you. But parallel structure is essentially when we have a list of 3 items that are phrased in the same format. So this is really important with your thesis statements. This might be a new term to you. It might sound intimidating, but it's really not a difficult concept to grasp. So again, if we are phrasing our 3 reasons in the same format, then we will have parallel structure, and our thesis statements won't be super wordy or confusing. So we can say plastic impacts Earth by polluting landfills, destroying coral reefs, and harming sea creatures. All 3 of those reasons were concise. It flowed nicely as one sentence instead of being separated into 2 or 3. And each one of those reasons will be sufficient for our body paragraphs. Again, the main thing with parallel structure is that you want to focus on the suffix of your beginning phrase. So for example, plastic impacts Earth by polluting landfills, destroying coral reefs, and harming sea creatures. Because all of those ended in ing, that's our suffix, because they all ended in ing, we really have a nice flow, right? You can do this in several ways. It does not always have to be ing. But when we don't have parallel structure with our 3 reasons, our thesis can be really wordy. It can turn into a run-on sentence, and it can be kind of confusing for our reader. If we said plastic impacts Earth by landfills being polluted with trash, comma, coral reefs dying, and filling sea creatures' bellies with plastic, that sentence, while it still says the same 3 things, is really wordy and confusing. Again, we just want to focus on making sure that the suffixes are the same in our 3 reasons. You could also use the template, Earth is impacted by plastic in the following ways, and that gives you a little bit more freedom. But again, you want to make sure that the suffixes flow together. Do we have any questions about parallel structure? In the chat, I want you to type a number between 1 and 10. 10 is, I got it, it makes complete sense. 1 is, I have no idea what you're talking about. Tell me where you are on a scale of 10. Thank you, Nick. Perfect. Nadine and Anjali, I hope you're at a 10 because you had to sit through this last year too, right? Sorry. Nkosi 9.5, a great place to be. Kieran 10. Guys, if you are not at a 10, that is okay to admit as well. If you are only feeling like a 4, a 5, if you have no idea what's happening, that is okay. But I love to see those 10s. Again, a lot of people, thank you, Nacier, 7, Angel 8.5. That's a great place to be. We're still a little confused, but that's fine. This is new for some of you, maybe not for Anjali and Nadine. Or others. You might have also talked about this in other classes. I just know for sure that they did. All right, so again, it might sound confusing, but really in practice, it just makes sense. It's making them the same. What I want you to do now is go ahead and pull up in Schoology. that essay structure paper that I was referring to. So in week 8, this green writing resource folder, you have 4 different papers here that will help you as you are working to revise your essay. Essay template and essay structure are essentially the exact same information, but this one looks like an essay and this one's in bullet point forms. This one will say sentence 1, do this. Sentence 2, do this. Sentence 3, do this. This one is more of a step by step, but not really sentence by sentence. You can use either one of these, whichever one makes sense to you. This has information on how to enhance your elaboration, and this provides a list of transitions to use in the beginning of your body paragraphs. We're going to look at essay structure today just because the formatting is a little bit more clear, and we're not going to go over every single step, but I am going to answer Nkosi's question about what do we do if we're not writing a hook, okay? In your introduction, right, the thesis statement using parallel structure is the last sentence of your essay, not your essay, sorry, the last sentence of your introduction. So if we're not including a hook, what do we do in those other 2 to 3 sentences before our thesis? What we do is we introduce the topic and we're kind of general in the beginning. So an essay moves from a general structure to really specific in the body paragraphs, and then the conclusion is a little bit more general at the end. So you introduce the background information. So perhaps if we're talking about this essay concerning plastics, you can say something like, man-made products have historically benefited humans in many ways. That's one sentence. However, the invention of plastic has caused more concern than, what word should I say there? More concern than help. That's not really the best word there, but you understand the purpose. So you're introducing the topic. You're staying general. Man-made products have truly benefited society. However, plastic has actually caused more harm than good. Then you might say something like the background information. While the invention of plastic has helped humans in a variety of ways, it has really caused a problem for Earth's environment. Then you move into your thesis statement where you talk about the 3 ways Earth is impacted by plastic. Okay, so it's not really a hook. It's not a did you know or have you heard. It's not I was walking across the beach, right? We still want to be in 3rd person. So no I, me, my, you, we, us. So we want to stay in 3rd person. And we want to introduce the topic in a way that makes people think about the actual impact, in a way that makes them care about the issue. Okay. Again, this document will help you as you go through your body paragraphs. Maybe I provided you with a note about that sentence between the topic sentence and your evidence. So again, you're not having to necessarily read this whole document word for word, but if you see a note in your essay feedback about the step between TS, topic sentence, and EV, evidence, that's this step right here. Remember, that second sentence is going to be an addition of what you were saying here. It's going to be a summary of what your evidence is going to state, right? It's going to analyze information. So you are providing information to set up your quote. If you said something in your topic sentence like, plastic greatly impacts Earth's environment, and then you jumped into, according to source 3, the Great Garbage Patch blah, 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 right? You need a sentence in between to connect those two. So this is a really important step that a lot of us seem to be forgetting. Again, it's just meant to connect the topic sentence to your evidence. So in that example I provided, plastic impacts Earth's environment, Great Pacific Garbage Patch, what we would have here is a sentence like, pollution is a significant contributor to Earth's, we could say something like, Earth's environment is negatively impacted by pollution. Plastic piles up in numerous areas, which creates a significant problem as it does not disintegrate. And then you could go into your evidence about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Again, I am talking to you so much, and I don't typically do this, and I know that it can get overwhelming. I know that it can get boring. The last thing I wanted to point out before I stop talking and let you do a little bit of work, in your conclusion, remember to reflect and really try to think about why this issue is important. So stay in third person, but again, try to say something about why is this important. Think about the consequence if this issue is not addressed, and then perhaps provide a call to action. Any other questions right now about anything that we've gone over? All right, what I want you to do, I want you to go find your district essay. So go back to your assignments, and with your district essay, again, these are the 11 people whose essays I have. If I do not have your essay, that means that you are going to be using this time, really today and tomorrow, to write the essay, which I'll include the source packet tomorrow. But remember, this essay is going to be included as a summative grade. If you came from Miss Lavelle, she gave me the essays that she had, and she told me the situations in which she did not have essays to score. And if she did not have an essay from you, then I do not have it either. But again, if your name is on this list, I need you to please go look at the feedback. Can I have a volunteer that would be willing to allow me to click on their essay on screen? It won't be on there very long. I just want to show what the feedback looks like. Any volunteers?
You can show mine.
Who was that?
Sophia.
Thank you, Sophia. Nadine also said she didn't mind. Okay, thank you, Sophia. I appreciate that. So again, when you are looking at this feedback, you need to make sure that you can see these comments. So if you can't see these comments, you might need to click on them. It's not just the score. There's actual information that I call the side that I need you to look through. So what I want you to do now during the rest of class time, I want you to look through this information that I provided to you in the feedback section of your document. And then after you have read through the feedback, I want you to go back and look at those writing resource papers. Okay, so you guys have a little bit more than 10 minutes to work on this today. I will get on at the end. If you think of any questions that you have while you are working, please type them in the chat. But what I want you to do right now is look at your feedback and then go look at the writing resource papers that have been posted in week 8 in that green folder. Okay, please stay in the meeting while you do this, and I will get back on at the end of class. Again, if you have any questions, please comment them in the chat while you are working and I will respond to them.